Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cool JDM show. I am your host, Derek Weldon. I'm also the company owner, so take that, Max and Mike. To my left, I've got
Mike, who was distracted by sound playing from the audio and getting very confused, but I'm not distracted any longer.
And we also have Max behind the scenes as usual.
Yes.
We are thinking about having more people come onto the show, so if you are interested in that, let us know. We have other staff in the back. They know how to talk, and they can come onto the show and talk their things that they want to talk about. You can meet them, and that'd be fun, right, Mike?
Yeah. Tell us who you want on the show and why. Give us
Specifically why.
Specifically why, yes, and what you want to see from them or see them wearing.
And we'll force them to do it because I am the boss of the company, and so, you know, people do what I say.
They have to. It's part of our contract.
So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a number of things. And this week in PCA, we're going to be talking about our new channel, Drives Japan. You had better go check that out. We also want to talk about a giveaway. We are going to bribe our viewers. More information on that in a second. We're also going to go over which cars that we have exported from Japan in the last year and to which countries. Sorry, let me back that up. Only which countries that we send our cars to and which percentage that we send them to. We also have industry topics and news. The industry topic for this time, we got two of them. One of them is a brief conversation on the tariffs for the USA. I know it is not a fun conversation, but there will be some insight in it because we have been thinking about this like crazy for the last few days, but more so for the last few weeks. And then, which auctions are more trustworthy than others? I know this is something that a lot of our customers are interested about, and so we're going to be going over that.
Hotly debated topic.
We have so many things to go over today.
Yeah, we're going to have to zoom.
Auction and dealer picks. We've got a Mitsubishi Jeep. Very cool. We have a Sylvia Case, an S14.
Oh, yeah.
We have the coolest 510 ever made, potentially.
Yes.
And there's a video clip of that one.
Yes.
And a Nissan R30 Skyline with a bitchin' engine. That's the only swear word we're allowed to say here, by the way, Mike.
Good luck.
Because I'm the boss. And then your Q&A. So as usual, you want to have your questions answered about Mike, Derek, Max, Grant, Jacob, Makiko, Sayo, Kidro, Naoko, or Ayako. Do we have any other staff? Did I miss any? That's all of them, right?
Yeah. I think so.
We're going to answer questions about them or questions about importing cars from Japan because that is what we do. Actually, we do the exporting, even though we're Pacific Coast Auto Imports.
We do the export. You import, we export.
Okay, so put your questions in now or anytime throughout the show, and we will answer them at the end of the show, which should be in about 45 minutes to an hour from now. And we can't go on extra today because we are very, very busy. So our show is going to be a little shorter than it usually is. The original 1 hour time. So
as best we can, given we have a very full show.
True that.
Start the show off by saying Colin has a comment that says 2 guys, 1 cup. We ran out of cups. Derek's cup is being reused.
What does that mean?
I have a mug.
I don't get it. Is that a joke or something?
I don't know. It must be a reference to something that we don't understand.
It's like we're definitely going over time. We say that every time. We're going to get through all this stuff and it'll be 1 hour show and then, it's an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 or an hour and a half. Okay, let's jump into it. This week, give me some reverb. This week at PCA. You want to go over the topic, Mike? I feel like I'm talking too much. I had a coffee, so I'm like,
I'm going to mention the giveaway, so you do the sub thing. The sub thing. Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Do it.
Last week on our show, we mentioned we had 1,067 subs on our new channel, Drives Japan. Currently, we're up to 1,085 subs. That's an increase in 18 subscribers. Now on to you, Mike.
Thanks, Derek. No, it's cool. It's cool that more people are subscribing to the new channel.
That was a pretty good week for subscribers, considering the amount of views that we get.
Yeah. And I particularly like the new thumbnail for the new video on the Drives Japan YouTube.
You're talking about the crying one?
Yeah, the little crying Miata. We have it open here. And
my favorite thumbnail of all is that one in the center that says stupid.
I like that it looks... I don't know when that shot was taken, but it's very cinematic.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it's the way that you put stupid behind the car. I don't know. Anyway, thank you if you shared the channel to your friends, your family, your dogs, your neighbors, your uncles, your aunties, your doctors at your doctor's appointments.
Max, are you sick? I see you're wearing a mask.
I'm trying to protect everyone from my sister being here at the moment and slightly sick.
Oh, I'm glad you said slightly sick at the end.
Yeah.
You know what? We should do a face reveal soon for you, Max, because everyone's heard your voice, but no one's actually seen what you look like.
Show. Yeah.
Next episode. Oh, you want to announce this?
No, I like it. I like this. Where this is going. Do it.
Okay.
We were making fun of Mike for going out on a tangent and saying in the next episode you're going to have something, and that's how we're getting our giveaway. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say our giveaway is Max. You get we're going to box him up and send him out of the country for you.
Exporting cars, not people.
And
enter political joke here. Don't.
Okay.
Don't.
I was walking the line. I was like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And then the intrusive thoughts.
Why don't we talk about the giveaway? Because I don't know anything about this. Mike just makes up stuff on the top of his head, and then we're going to honor that or else.
It's the best way. So the secret giveaway that was mentioned last week is happening. It is a very real giveaway, even though it was on a tangent and nobody knew about it.
I'm a little nervous over here. How much is this going to cost me?
But get your votes in for yourself. You're voting for yourself. You're sending us pictures. What's the new email address? show@pacificcoastjdm.com.
Correct.
Send in your pictures, your videos.
Pictures of what?
Pictures of your car.
That
Everything
you
is of your
imported
car.
from us or just any car?
It has to be imported from us. We'll know because we exported it to you.
we'll know. Hey, I didn't export that one. This guy doesn't get a prize pack.
Yeah, so send us in photos and pictures of your car to enter into the draw that will close at an unannounced time. Yet unannounced. You can tell I'm making this up because the words aren't flowing very well. But it is a secret giveaway that will close on a date that will not be announced beforehand until it is closed. It will be announced on the show. That's your only hint. So it will be a Wednesday. So if it comes to that's Tuesday in the USA.
We'll also email the person, right? If they say they are maybe their kid needs to go to the hospital and they can't miss the show, can't see the show.
We'll announce the winner on the show and we'll show you the winning entry. Also, I like that Logan just now wrote first, which is about the 20th comment.
I will say I already got 6 emails and people sent in 20 pictures. It's pretty good.
Yeah, we've had some really
pictures.
cool entries
Really
already. We can't share that yet. But there's stiff competition.
You were saying that if we say that the entries that we got already are so good, it's going to discourage people from sending them in. But you guys don't know the criteria, and I don't know the criteria that we're going to measure these against.
Right.
And so we might pick the worst picture. So if you have bad pictures of your car, send those ones in too.
Yeah, or the funniest picture.
Or I can't think of anything funny.
Other weird criteria that are yet to be announced. So yes.
We have a lot of things to go over, and Max just pointed at the clock behind his head. Why don't we go on to the next part?
Okay, let me close this one off. So send in pictures and photos of your cars. The contest or giveaway will close at a random time that will be announced on the show, and then we will announce the winner. So send it in.
Send them in to show@pacificcoastjdm.com. Pretty easy,
Share
right?
your dope rides.
That email address, by the way, can be used for anything. If you've got a story that you want us to go over or something in the news that you thought was interesting, send that to us. We'll potentially use that for the next show. We're always looking for good ideas.
Yeah.
Yes.
On to the next thing. Where did we send our cars in 2024? I want somebody in the comments to guess where our most popular country was. And I think this is an easy one, actually. Someone in the comments, tell us, where do you think we sent the most of our cars to? A total of about 970 cars in 2024. Where did they go? And we have a winner! Yes, the USA is our biggest market. The USA was 48.2% of our total exports. That's huge.
Yep.
And that was 464 cars that we sent to the USA last year.
Second place is very, very close.
Second place is very easy. I'm sure many of the people in the chat, as I know, are from this country. It is Canada. I think we must be one of the top exporters to Canada.
I think so.
Quite honestly, we're very much a small to medium size exporter here in Japan. The ones that do big volume are selling thousands of cars per month, and we're barely 1,000 per year, just about 1,000 per year. We sent 430 cars to Canada, and that's 44.7% of our total sales. And that means that 95%, almost 95, 92% of our sales went to Canada/USA.
Yep. And then there's a little sprinkling of Europe that goes down the list, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but I think so. Let me just go over the list. USA, Canada, our top two, right? That's 92%. Next is UK with 23 cars. Much less, right? Yeah. Then United Arab Emirates with 7 cars, France with 5 cars, Ireland with 4 cars, Netherlands with 4 cars, and Australia with 3 cars. And then after that, we're all 2 and 1, and the list is fairly long. In total, we sent to, I think, just below 50 different countries last year. I did count them all up, but I only added the top 8 to this list. So there it is. We are hot on the USA market and the Canada market, and we are cold on the other markets. And I think I know why. Do you have a guess why?
You're Canadian.
Yes, that's...
And you've always got your elbows up.
Everybody from Canada is like, hey, that I see it all the time online. Buy from Pacific Coast. Buy from Derek. He's from Canada. I see that quite frequently online. Yep. So thank you, everyone who does that. The main reason why is because we do nearly 100% advertising word of mouth. And so we started in Canada with my group of friends that were importing, and they told other people in Canada, you know, Canadians are more likely to know other Canadians. And so it does make sense, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the same thing happened with the USA, and we came up in the USA market just as they were becoming popular, and so that word of mouth helped us grow as well. We don't have as many sales to other countries, and so therefore less word of mouth. And if we do want to build those, we're going to have to do paid advertising or something like that, or maybe a giveaway. Maybe send in your car. Actually, that's a terrible giveaway considering all of our customers are from USA and Canada.
Why?
I mean, the giveaway is good. People can get good stuff, but if we want to grow in Australia or UK or New Zealand or something,
I was going to say that part of the reason for mentioning this is that previously some people had said that we started one of the live streams at a time that didn't work for American and Canadian, or North American really, viewers. And we changed it to this time because you guys are awake and it makes more sense for us. It also has to fit into our schedule, but the reason we can't always do the show at a European appropriate time is because we don't have many customers there. So
this is kind of the viewers' fault, you're saying. They should be watching us more, and then we can do it on their time zone as well.
We're doing the show that will reach the most of our customers.
You know.
And then the video goes...
some churches, I come from Canada where churches are popular. This is the only reason I'm talking about it. But some churches will do their mass, right, in the morning, and then again in the afternoon they'll say the exact same speech, right?
We're doing 2 shows from now on. Morning and an afternoon.
We are not doing 2 shows. This is about as much as we can handle, considering it. Like every Wednesday it's a scramble from 9 o'clock in the morning here in Japan until 11 o'clock when the show goes on to kind of get things ready.
Morning being the busiest time for bidding at auction.
So. Yes, but our team back there does a great job. On to the next one, Max.
Oh, I want to make a joke.
Do it.
Our team back there is handling the bidness.
That's good.
This is a joke that we do in the office, but I want to share that with people.
I've never heard that joke before. It's my first time.
Yeah, taking care of bidness.
Okay. Maybe I just don't listen to you guys.
That's very true.
Okay, next segment, Mike. Go ahead.
Industry topics and news.
There's already reverb. You can't double a reverb like that. Okay, so our 2 topics. Number 1 is the U.S. tariffs, of course. We are talking about that the day before we get the details about it.
Yep.
And the other one is what auctions are more trustworthy than others, and also a little bit of how can you make sure that you get the right car when you're bidding on them. A little bit of that. We're just going to riff on it a bit. There's a bunch that we can go over. So first, the tariffs. Do you want me to go over this? Do you want to go over this?
I think you can start off. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, but at the same time, there's not a lot of information. The information was released last week.
Right.
Hasn't changed. May change in the future. But everyone's just kind of hanging on to the announcements.
And it's scary because usually when there's a change in, a change in policy like this, you're given 6 months notice or something. This time we weren't. It was like, snap, you've got tariffs.
Yeah.
It's almost something that you would see in countries that, like, we saw the same thing happened in Sri Lanka like 2 years ago or so. A new government came in and they were like, no more cars from Japan. And people are like, I got a whole bunch in Japan that are waiting to come over. And they're like, nope. Yeah. Sorry, guys. We don't expect it from a country like the USA, though. Well, I mean, maybe things are different going forward. Unpredictability is something that we might have to consider. So we don't know if these tariffs are actually going to come in. The announcement comes in tomorrow. So by this time tomorrow, we should have more information. We sent out an email just this morning to any of our USA customers, and maybe some of you that are watching were able to get that, and it has a bunch of information in it. Some of it we'll go over now. We did already talk about this before. We're going to do a slimmed down version of it this time, and just go over some of the main points. And I think there is one very important point that I can mention here that I didn't mention in the email, and so make sure you don't click away for that, or you're always going to be wondering what that important information was.
Yeah. And Greg said tariff talk. Yes, this is tariff talk for now.
Yeah. So who's clicking away? Let's have a look. Yeah. So there's so much to go over. So let me just read off my notes and then you elaborate.
I'll do a little entry to this.
Yeah.
The tariffs suck. Like, from our point of view and your point of view, we're exporting cars, you're importing cars, and suddenly, like Derek said, overnight, 25% more expensive. We feel incredibly sad for you guys who are on the receiving ends of the tariff. That's, I think, our prevailing thought process.
I think there are a ton of people who are very worried, like this is going to kill the industry. And I am here from the future, because I can time travel, to let you know that that is not going to be the case. There will still be an industry for that. There's some chance that the industry may grow over the future. US has a lot of people, and there is a big demand for cars. There will be a bigger demand for cars going forward. And so it is a pivotal moment. It's like going up, more imports coming to the USA, bumpy time, which is right now, and then potentially up more after that. And so, yeah, let's get into the details. First off, cars into the USA are 25 years old, right? Almost nobody in the world is buying 25-year-old cars except for the USA. The US has a lot of money because they get paid more than most other countries in the world, and so the prices of the cars in Japan are based off of what American market is willing to pay for them.
Right. And we saw that with COVID. When the American market got a lot of extra money, prices rose up. And there was also, as soon as cars become 25 years old, prices increase because of the demand in the USA.
And the market in the USA has been stagnant a little bit right now because a ton of people have been importing cars that weren't experienced enough to sell them very easily. I think that many people in the USA are very enterprising and they want to be able to make a business out of this. A side hustle is very
Continue.
A side hustle in the USA is very how would you say that? Many people are enthusiastic about that sort of thing. Yeah. And so compared to other countries, most countries that we ship to that aren't the USA, people are importing for themselves. Most buyers in the USA are importing for the sale and for the profit of that. Lots of people were importing. Prices came a little bit stagnant. Right now is a little bit of a slow time, I guess you could say. But now the tariffs come in, so it's mixed things up a bit.
Yeah.
But the 25% tariff into the USA, compared to the other countries in the world, and we will go over this, is actually not that high. Many of the countries around the world have 25 or more % import tax, and they import from Japan at a higher rate than the USA will. And so there's reason to believe that with this new tariff rate, prices at auction are going to come down, and they're going to come down probably about 25%. Now, this is going to be different for every type of car. Depends on what the demand for that car is. For example, an 8.6, like a Toyota 8.6, the old one, it might be really expensive in the USA and in Norway and in Ireland and in Canada, and people might be willing to pay a certain amount for that. And so that means that when the tariffs come in, the prices for those might not fall as much as something like a Honda Stepwagon or a Honda Odyssey RB1 or something else that's a little bit less flashy. Something like an RX-7 might not fall in price so much as something like an SMX.
Right.
Honda SMX.
Right.
So we've been selling enough of recently. It's really weird.
Demand will drive the price at auction. We have saw that when prices went up, and we'll see that again, likely prices going down.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to say is that each car is going to have its own kind of ratio of how much the prices are going to fall, but in general, 25% tax, 25% reduction in prices, things will even out a little bit. Yeah. We also think that there's going to be more demand in the USA for used cars. This new tariff, I said this is going to be the slimmed down version.
It's tough. It's a really tough topic to
the original
discuss.
The original version of what I wanted to send out to customers was 4 pages long, and I trimmed that down to 1 page. So there's a lot to think about here. But manufacturers of new cars in the USA are going to be hurting because all of their parts come from overseas, which are going to be taxed. Any companies like the BRZ and the 86 are made in Japan and they're imported to the USA. They're 25% more expensive now. There's reason to believe that those cars are no longer going to be on the market. Toyota probably can't make a profit on the BRZ anymore, or the BRZ, and so they're probably going to pull it. Toyota, Subaru BRZ, Toyota 86. Right. They're probably going to get pulled from the market because the cost it takes to start manufacturing those in the USA is not going to be worth it. In an ironic way, we're going to be going back to the 90s where Japan has all the good cars.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
And the USA is going to be like, how come we don't get the good ones?
Yeah.
It's going to be Corollas and Camrys and...
anything that's built domestically.
Yeah, the only Volkswagens that are built domestically are the IDX, I think, is the only one. The Golf is made in Mexico, and the other ones, I think all of them are either Mexico or Europe.
I did not consider that as a possibility at all.
Yeah, this is going to be rough. So anyway, the point is, new car prices are going to be going up. People won't be able to afford them. Everyone needs a car. They'll be buying in the used market. Used market prices will go up, just like they did with COVID.
Yeah.
So.
And I think what you've always said, which is very true, the auctions in Japan are wholesale auctions. And the prices fluctuate based on demand. So generally, we see the prices change pretty quickly. With the 25% tariffs, a lot of people are scared or nervous or not sure what's going to happen. They might delay purchasing. We would expect a pretty sharp drop in prices depending on the vehicle. This is obviously assuming that it's a US legal vehicle. The 86 is an interesting one because they're kind of unaffordable as they are. The US isn't really willing to pay the amount they cost here in Japan to purchase them. So will the prices for those drop? I don't know. Maybe not.
I don't think they can. They'd be losing money on each one that they sold.
Yeah. So, I mean the AE86.
Oh.
The AE86 is not...
Pardon me.
It's not, it's not really a car that we sell many of to the USA because the prices here are so high. They're very well loved in Japan and the rest of the world. So the prices for those will probably remain high. And there are going to be some models that just won't make sense to import anymore.
Right. If you are a customer and you're worried about this and you want to get our advice on a specific model, let us know. We are going to be fairly busy fielding these types of questions, but we'll do our best to try to keep you filled in. I got to say though, the 25% tax feels like the end of the world for USA buyers, but there are tons of countries that have high taxes that import more than the USA does. So I want to go over those. The USA imports 17,000 cars from Japan every year.
These are used cars.
This is a little over 1,000 cars per month to the USA. Used cars. Thank you for filling that in. The USA import duty is 2.5%, which is ridiculously low. I don't even know why they had it that low.
The lowest in the world.
Honestly. And so when the US market started ramping up imports, everywhere else in the world was all mad, like New Zealand and Australia and even Canada, prices shot up so much that they couldn't purchase these vehicles anymore because it was just too expensive to purchase it at the same price USA buyers would, plus whatever their import taxes were. And so New Zealand, your fine country,
Yep.
People don't realize this, but they import 10 times more JDM cars than the USA does. 114,000 imported there last year.
And it's a tiny island of 6 million people.
Right. And USA is what, 350 million people?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they can import
times.
newer cars, so that does make sense. And they don't have a domestic manufacturing, so there's no reason to, buy domestic cars like the USA does.
Yeah.
So most of the cars in New Zealand actually come from Japan, right?
Right.
Like pretty much every car dealer there imports from Japan.
Yeah. The New Zealand road rules are all the same. We drive on the same side as Japan. The everything. We've always had a lot of Japanese cars, so they just make sense to import there.
Did you write this down? 15% GST.
Yeah. So that's
not duty. That's just GST.
Right. That's just tax. So
that's a high tax.
Yeah, it increased from 10 to 15.
Do you know what your duty is there?
Ago. 0 for used vehicles. Unless it's a camper, then it's 10%.
Okay, so 15% compared to the USA, which is 2.5 plus whatever your state income, state tax is.
Right.
So registering, you would pay, 5% or 7% or something like that. Some states don't even have a state tax. Yeah. Okay. UK. 27,000 cars sent to the UK. Their tax is 30%. It's even more than that. It's 20% and then 10% on the amount that was already charged to the 20%. So it's something around, I can't do the math in my head, but something around 35%.
Jeepers.
For importing to the UK. But still, 27,000 cars.
Almost double the US.
And they only have a population of around 65 million people.
Yeah.
I couldn't get the Germany amount of imports numbers, but the tax for importing car there, 30%. Roughly 30%. Canada, only 4,500 cars per year. We have 0% import duty because of a free trade agreement with Japan, which is pretty dope. Yeah. But we also pay the GST and the PST, which depends on which state, which province that you're in. From Canada, I should know these things. About 12% or so. Okay, this one kind of shocked me. One of the biggest countries for import, I think the 7th biggest in the world, is Kenya, and their import taxes are 25 to 35%, so can be extremely expensive. They're importing 61,000 cars per year.
Yeah, the African and Middle Eastern countries import a lot. We don't have all the countries here. It's just kind of a cherry-picked examples.
Mishmash?
Mishmash.
Is that a real word?
Sure.
All right, we'll go with it. So the point is, there are markets that have higher taxes than the USA and still have thriving markets for importing. And so while things are going to be bumpy now, there's reason to believe that they will continue to be good. This is my sales pitch. Is it working? Am I doing an okay job?
There are so many factors. Like when we were talking about this before, there are so many factors that go into this. Like the reason New Zealand's imports are so high is because they have right-hand drive cars, and it makes sense. And you can import much newer cars. We're not...
Right.
There are limits to what you can import, but without going too much into it, if the car is 20 years old, you can import it without any restrictions. Otherwise, it has to be much newer and has to comply with emissions and things like that. So there are reasons for all of these numbers. And like Africa imports like a ton of Prius and like very low value vehicles just in huge quantities
from B forward.
Yeah. And other exporters too, but yeah, there's many reasons, but the point is that the tax is not necessarily damning to a country being able to import cars and still have a thriving import market.
Right, and many of these countries are competing against one another, whereas the USA is pretty much only competing against itself because most people are not importing 25-year-old vehicles. I feel like there's going to be... Sorry, Max, I know you're concerned about time. I feel like there's going to be an influx of people buying the regular cars, something like a Celsior instead of something like an S14. I think prices for sports cars are going to stay fairly high. Going to make it harder for people to import those to the USA. Going to make it harder for YouTubers that are bringing in the hot and snazzy cars in order to raffle them off. That kind of business might be going away, but your importing of regular vehicles, just your everyday vehicle, might go up substantially. Yeah. That's my take on it, my hot take. Yeah. We talked, that's all I got to say. You want to conclude that?
No, I think, do we have anyone in the chat that has immediate questions? Might be good to Kenya goes up to 100% tax in certain circumstances. Wild.
Yeah, I also heard that India is 125%, which I believe is the highest amount. Greg says 6.1% duty in Canada. It used to be, and then it went down to 5%, and then it went down to 0%.
Right, and
only for Japanese-made cars. If you're importing into Canada a car from Europe, it's still 5%.
Yeah.
Or a car from America or something like that. Only Japanese-made cars.
But we don't do that. We're in Japan. We can't send you a car from Europe. We do get asked.
No, even from Japan. Like if we send a BMW to Canada,
car?
Yeah, you still pay 5%.
Oh, that's right, because it has to be a Japanese-made car, right?
For the trade agreement to make sense.
Thank you for correcting.
Yes. Okay, let's do the next topic. We beat that one to death. I wanted to do that faster, but we can't stop talking.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot of. Anyway, I'm not going to say it again. Tariff discussion done for now.
What auctions are more trustworthy than others? A question that we get asked often. Before we get into that, I want to go over some of the misunderstandings of auctions. And we got a few points here.
Those are important.
You are very good at this. So I will say the thing, and then you tell me what you think about it. Am I putting you on the hot seat here? You're going to be okay with this?
Yep. Let's do it.
Okay. There is a risk from buying from auction because this is a wholesale way of buying.
Correct.
Okay, next one.
Well, so when you're selling a car retail, you take a ton of pictures and you're dealing with the buyer or the end user directly. You want to encourage that person to purchase the vehicle. You're putting a lot more effort and time. Like if you go to a dealership lot, they're going to give you all the greatness of selling a car. And wholesale, it's like buy the car or not. You want it? It's right here in front of you.
And the price is less.
And you're right, the price is much less. So it's a completely different way of purchasing a vehicle.
Okay, and this is Japan. So don't assume that the rules are the same as your country. This one, I think we get frequently from USA/Canada customers who think that, like, for example, you buy a car from auction and then you go and take a look at it, and there was something that was missed on the auction inspection sheet. Maybe something that's medium severity or something. And then the customers assume, oh, well, the auction inspector missed it, and so you should be able to return that back to the auction, which is usually not the case. And this is just one example of several examples of how you're buying from a different market. Regular business rules, regular understanding of how the world works is different between the USA and from Japan. Especially like in business, there are many, many, many different business differences between Japan and the USA or Japan and Canada or elsewhere in the world. And we're constantly being kind of reminded of that by people who are like, that sounds scammy.
Yeah.
But maybe scammy is not the word that you're like, that most accurately explains it. It's like, well, that would be the norm here. If you were raised in Japan, then that would be, oh, of course it's done that way. And so it might be worth giving the benefit of the doubt when you don't understand something, and we can, of course, explain that to you.
And I have to say, we bump up against this all the time. Our perception of how things should be done coming from Western backgrounds, Western upbringings, versus how they're actually done in Japan, constantly we're left scratching our head. But we do have to understand that, like, we are not in the West. This is Japan. Things are done differently. So just like it as much as you want. That is the reality.
Yeah, you cannot change an entire country's way of doing things, right? And no matter how hard you holler.
Yeah.
Like suing an auction is a good example of that.
Yeah.
In the USA, you might be able to sue an auction and win, and the auction house will still allow you to buy from it. Now, I don't know because I've never tested this, but I feel like if we sued the USS auctions, they'd be like, thank you, we'll take your license.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, why?
Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, you just sued us.
Yeah. You're out. We don't want you buying here anymore.
I haven't tested it, so I don't know.
Plan on testing it either. Maybe this is one of your other things, but the auctions contracting themselves out of responsibility.
Yeah, the auction.
Can I talk about that quickly?
Yeah.
So when you have to get a license to sign up at the auctions in Japan, you have to be vetted and then accepted by the auction. You don't just walk up and say, I'm going to buy from auction now, fill in the paperwork, I'm a member. They have to physically give you, or not physically, but they have to allow you to purchase at auction. It's
quite hard to get the membership. In the past, you had to get recommended from somebody else who was a member. to get a USS membership.
See, that right there baffles me. I'm like, really?
It's like an old man's club.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gross.
And
except for if you're part of the auction and you're watching this, it's not gross at all. It's lovely. We love it.
That just completely caught me off guard. You have to sign their contract for purchasing at auction, and in that contract, you are signing away your right to disagreeing with pretty much everything. There are select circumstances where you are allowed to make claims on vehicles, but most of the time you are not, and that is just what you have to know when buying from the auctions and buying wholesale. Part of it, the reason is it's understandable. It's a wholesale auction, right? The profits that everyone's making are much lower. Dealers aren't selling cars at retail prices, so there's not a lot of markup, and the auction doesn't make huge money on each individual car. They have to. It's like a whole big machine.
Yeah, they make $150 on selling a car sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes less, sometimes more.
Yeah, and yes, the company can make large profits overall because of the volume, but on an individual level, it's very small. You start having phone calls about an inspection and everything, that car costs, you make nothing on that car. So
yeah, $150 per time that they sell a car. That's insane.
Yeah.
I think the USA auctions are much higher. If anyone in the comments has a membership of an auction that is in the USA or Canada or another country, do you happen to know what the purchase fees are? I think it would be like a percentage of the car that you buy, value. And I think it would be more expensive than the Japanese ones.
I would be interested to know.
Now, so this is basically disclaimers for before we get into which auctions to watch out for, because I think that most people, maybe they had a bad situation with one auction and then they're like, don't buy from that auction.
Yeah.
And then they talk about that on the internet. And then people who don't know better will say, oh, well, I heard this auction is a bad auction to be buying from, and then we'll repeat that. And so there is what I would consider to be not completely true information floating around there about which auctions to avoid and which auctions are better. And I think that this encompasses at least 80%, if not more, of the general understanding of what auctions are good and which auctions are bad. And I would say just because somebody is a member of auctions here or purchases from auctions and exports doesn't mean that they're correct. I have seen a ton of other exporters, especially on Facebook groups, saying, oh, of course, you bought it from that auction, what did you expect, kind of thing. And I just think it's usually wrong. And I'm not usually there to say, well, actually, it's like this. It's not a good use of our time to be chasing down all of this information that we consider to be misinformation. It's part... Or just not complete information. Not like everyone who's doing that is saying misinformation, but they might be giving an assumption to someone who then repeats it and it turns into a bigger thing without realizing what they were getting themselves into.
Right.
So,
and that's without even talking about ulterior motives for mentioning those things as well.
Oh, of course. You're talking about like a car exporter is like, oh, you should be buying from this auction because it happens to be, for example, one that's close to them.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So... yeah. What else do we got? The vast majority of cars at auction are 5 years old or newer. And that means that the people who are inspecting the 15 to 25-year-old cars are usually like, it's a pain in the butt for them.
Oh, you mean auction inspectors?
Yeah, the auction inspectors might be missing things as a result of them going, ugh.
There's also a lot
another
more.
25-year-old rust bucket Skyline that's going to take up all of my designated time. Like, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that there's a good chance that they're timed for each auction that they do, or they're like, you need to do X amount of inspections within this time to make sure that they're, not slacking off or whatnot.
And an inspection on a Skyline would take 10 times as long if you wanted to catch
or more compared to a 1-year-old car that has basically no damage. So there is that to consider as well. Yeah. So we did come up with 2 auctions that we're not very happy with. Yeah. Do you want to say the name of those auctions? Before we get into this, I want to say that this is probably the most important point. I don't want to miss it. I would probably buy a car from any auction in Japan as long as the car that came up at that auction is the one that I wanted to buy. Yeah. Most of the cars I want to buy are fairly unique. Maybe they've got a certain type of modification that I want, or they're a rare car that I want, and I don't have the luxury of selecting a specific auction. If you're buying newer cars, then you can, but the problem difference between cars when they're 3 years old is going to be so small.
Yeah.
for specialty cars, it's going to be very big difference from one car to the next and how the auction explains it. And so I feel like more often than not, you'll be like, ooh, the car I want. Oh, it's at that auction that maybe they're not that good with the details on the auction sheet. Okay, well, I still want the car, so maybe I'll just bid a little bit more conservatively on this one so that I don't get into trouble and just assume that maybe there will be some things that is missed. Don't forget, this is still wholesale buying. You're still buying the car for several $1,000s less than retail. And with that amount of money that you're saving, you could put a lot of that into the car to fix it up. It's pretty rare that somebody buys a car from auction and is not able to at least break even. And so when you look at it that way, it's not as risky as you think it might be.
I agree completely. I think you have to...
Good point.
Good point, Derek. Yeah. You have to look at the car that you're buying. If it's at an auction that you don't like, I think you take that information and you be more thorough with your investigation on the car. For example, if the perfect car for you came up at Hokkaido, and this is something I personally look at, Hokkaido gets a ton of snow in the winter. Japanese houses tend not to have garages. They're like, it's not uncommon for your car to get buried under snow in Hokkaido, and I really mean buried, like
worse than the UK, worse than many places of Canada.
Yeah.
Hokkaido gets world record amounts of snow compared to anywhere else.
Right.
Like I heard the top 3 cities of over 100,000 people size that get the most snow are in Japan.
Yeah, it's wild, like mountains of snow. I used to live next to a tennis court that got snow piled up above my head, and I'm 6'3".
Right, and then Yokohama gets basically no snow. Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah, I miss the
Hokkaido
snow.
Just gets, because of the way that the air comes down from Russia.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So, if I found a car I liked and it was at an auction in Hokkaido, that's my frame of reference, right? I would immediately think, does this have rust? Because it's so common there. They salt the roads up there. Not much chance of it being garaged, although it could be. If you're looking to get like a very upmarket vehicle and it's a 4.5B or something and it's the perfect car for you and it's in Hokkaido and it doesn't mention rust anywhere, it's probably been garage kept. Especially if it's a more expensive car that would warrant being kept in a garage. If it's
absolutely,
if it's like
100% chance that something that's $150,000 would have been kept in a garage.
So in that case, I wouldn't really be concerned about the rust. It probably wasn't driven in winter. It's probably kept in a garage. It's probably fine. But if it's like a lifted Land Cruiser 70 or 80 or something, and it does mention that there's rust or corrosion on the underside, I would expect that to be much worse because it was owned in Hokkaido. So the point I'm trying to make here is understand if there is an auction that you don't particularly trust for whatever reason, maybe you have experience or something like that, it should mean that you're more not skeptical, what's the word, like more, you're looking at it more detailed.
Reading between the lines?
Yeah, a lot of reading between the lines with these cars and evaluate the car based on those that knowledge that you have already. I don't know if that's good advice, if people are understanding what I'm trying to say here, but...
If we ever do merch, we should do one that says something like... as a picture of Max pointing at the clock.
The clock
I'd buy that.
Right behind me in the view side of Mike and Derek, and I'm always like pointing at it.
Yeah. Trying to keep us on time.
So there are some auctions that we are maybe a little bit skeptical of, and of course if you are a customer you can ask these things to us and we'll tell you. We will always be honest with you. We have had not such good luck with one auction that's very, very small, that is very far away from us, that we don't bid on very often, but we probably in a year buy 5 cars from them or something. That's LAA Okayama. Again, they will have cars that you can buy on. Their prices tend to be really cheap because they're a smaller auction. They're very far away.
Yeah.
They tend to not be as detailed on the auction. You explained earlier why that is, or like in what way?
So this is like, I'm not saying they're a bad auction, but when I see a car from LA Okayama, I'm a bit more skeptical. They tend to, any damage that they list on the sheet, something that I would expect to be an A2 or an A3, so this is like an A1. It's like everything is just a little bit downplayed. That's my feeling for this auction. I'm not saying that's the truth, But we've had a number of cars purchased from there where when I see them in person, I'm a little bit disappointed. It doesn't quite match the condition that I had expected. And generally when we get cars, like 95% of them are as I would expect. If there was an auction or if there was a note on the sheet that I thought, oh, I would be a little bit concerned about that, but the buyer's okay with, then they might then think, oh, I didn't think it would be that bad. And I was like, well, it's kind of there on the sheet. We see sheets every day. We know how to read them. We read between the lines. We infer details and that kind of thing. So
who was it that said that there's no way that we're going to be able to wrap this one up quickly? Because that person's right.
Yeah.
And the other one, Ju Gifu, we had problems with them crashing one of our cars and then not fully.
Was that Ju Gifu or Ju Aichi? I thought it was Aichi.
Was it? I actually don't know.
I think it was Gifu.
Grant, could you check if our
I think it was
bought from Aichi?
It was Gifu, I remember.
It was Gifu?
Smashed one.
Yeah,
Gifu.
Okay.
And again, we buy from them frequently. I don't think that they're an auction that you need to avoid. Just again, be a little bit more careful, maybe bid a little bit less. And most of these auctions that are a little bit less informative tend to have lower prices too. So there's a balance there. Yeah. On to the next segment because we're going to run out of time. No, Mike, you can't say anything.
It's not all doom and gloom. Honda auctions. Honda auctions are run by Honda. And they are they're on the other end where they grade things more harshly than they actually are.
And they're cheap. But they're on Monday, and they don't have old cars usually. It's mostly lease trade-ins.
Yeah, and they're all Hondas. Well, 90% of them are Hondas.
A lot of them are. Yeah.
Next segment.
We are going to fly through these. You know what sucks? This used to be the main point of these shows was to go over auction picks, and it has become the one that we fly through so we can get to the Q&A before people get mad at us.
Yeah.
So
if you enjoy the auction picks, let us know, and we will try to put more time there onto showing some cool cars.
Okay.
You need to announce the segment first with reverb.
Go ahead, Mike.
Auction and dealer picks that we have specifically selected for your enjoyment. Do you like that?
Yeah, I like it.
A bit of ad-lib there for you.
Yeah, I was trying to lip sync, but I didn't know what you were saying, so I just...
And I did it really fast.
It was an appropriate speed. First one, a 1983 Mitsubishi Jeep. It seems a little bit weird. Oh, this is a super long one. No, not super long.
This is the Disney movie adventure vehicle. Indiana Jones, like you go on a jungle adventure somewhere, this car.
Watch how fast I can talk about this one. This one has a 2.7 liter diesel engine. This is how you get a diesel Jeep. This is a real Jeep. This is licensed from America. After World War II, Japan was like, we need to have a military or something. And then I don't actually know the history of them, so I'm just making it up. I can hear Grant snickering in the back. It has wipers that come down from the ceiling, and it's cool. You get a diesel Jeep. They made them for like 30 years. They tend to rust pretty badly, but they are robust. The engines are very reliable. The drivetrain's reliable, and they feel very 1950s to drive. They usually don't have power steering, but they have a great big steering wheel, like seriously this big, and you ride around in a very old feling Jeep. You can buy this one at auction. Go ahead and do it.
Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones.
Jurassic Park was Explorers, I think.
No, it was Jeeps. I've decided.
All
that is the quintessential adventure vehicle, jungle vehicle movie.
Can you click on the sheet again?
Sure.
So this one says 5,791 kilometers with a star next to it. These have 5-digit odometers, and so you never know the mileage most of the time unless they've got history to back it up.
I see rust, corrosion, and corrosion hole.
Yeah. On to the next one. It's a 1997 Nissan Silvia K is the reason why we're putting this one on. This is a Koki version, and so it's the late model. And the reason we're bringing this one on is because it has now become very rare to find an S14 that is not seriously clapped out, either damaged, not very well kept, has been drifted on the street, modified in stupid ways. To find one that is just in good condition is a really nice find. So this one here has been in an accident, and I think this is a good example of one that hasn't been in a big enough accident that it would be of concern to me. I'd buy.
I'd buy. Small accident. Mileage is pretty good.
This is my favorite of all of the Silvias, potentially.
Heck yeah, I'm glad you... Oh, all three of us? We all have fantastic taste.
But it's harsh competition. The S13s, S14s, S15s, all fantastic cars.
But this one, fantasticest.
I love how aggressive it looks. And I've seen some with an aftermarket hood that raises the hood up a little bit. It gives it like a more aggressive look. Oh, I just love it.
I think these are one of the best designed cars ever. Especially this, the late model.
They very well encompass the 1990s in Japan.
Yeah.
Oh, look how clean it is. Oh my gosh. I need to has that.
It has
It's
a
gonna be
drift.
expensive.
It has a drift handle though.
Yeah, don't buy this one anymore. A spin turn knob is what they call that here. Next one is from a dealership. We are really flying
We
through
have to
these.
go through quick.
From a dealership. This, okay, so it might not look like much. It's called a Bluebird here in Japan. It's the 510 in North America. It might have some other names in other countries. The 510, one of the best cars to come out. Don't show that yet.
Spoiler alert.
One of the best cars to come out of Japan in the 70s. This truly was. It came out in, I think, late 60s. 69 or something was the first year of them.
I don't know.
Grant? 68 was the first year of these, so they are a 60s car, but
fact check.
this car is similar feeling to most of the 70s cars in Japan. It came with a really lackluster engine. I think it was a 1.4 liter overhead valve engine that puts out 70 something horsepower. I don't know.
So if you were to change
something
that
like
engine,
that.
What would you change it to?
But they are rear-wheel drive, and they were fantastic and effective in racing, in some sort of racing event that Grant will say.
The Trans Am series in the US.
It's Trans Am series in the US. So they were racing against cars with V8s, and they were winning with much less horsepower than the V8 cars due to being lightweight and being awesome, just awesome. All the V8 drivers were like, I can't fight against this guy.
Okay, but
It's
what
awesome.
engine's in this one?
Show us the engine.
Dum, dum.
Does anyone
not the
recognize
original
it?
engine?
I couldn't recognize the engine because the valve cover is different from the original one. But the
First
giveaway is the
answer
dipstick.
in the chat. Go. Engine guesses.
If
I don't
anyone
know
was
if anyone's
watching
going to
very
get it.
closely, you could have seen it in the text.
Oh, right.
That's why I zoomed in, so you can't
Nice.
read. But
So it has been converted to individual throttle bodies, which is something you'll find a lot on 70s cars because they originally came with that. Many of them did with carbureted cars. But this one's fuel injected. Engine swap over to...
Wait, this is the greatest thing in the world. Derek Weldon fan is the person to guess it first, and that is completely true.
Who is that?
I don't know.
Who
He's a Derek Weldon fan.
is that the first comment from that person? I can't believe somebody made a
Maybe.
YouTube... Oh, man.
I love it.
A YouTube channel just to call themselves that for the purpose of our tiny little JDM show.
What a great way to reveal yourself by getting the correct
I love
guess
that.
to an
We
engine
should,
swap.
you know, we were talking about the giveaway. We should just give away to that person. Send in a picture of your car. We'll just pretend it was bought from us.
Yeah, totally name yourself Derek Weldon fan. It does give you special privileges.
And that person's correct. It is a K24, which is a Honda engine that comes in a whole bunch of cars, including the Type Rs from the era. And it runs a transmission from a...
Refer to Grant's notes that he prepared earlier.
6-speed manual from an S2000 was used for this one.
Wow.
And
So they also did the intake.
we have an audio clip
Oh, yes.
of it revving.
Roll the clip.
so, if you guys do not hear the audio, let me know. It should-
Here's
it
the
should-
audio clip. Max, we can't hear it.
So, let's try this.
We won't be able to hear it, right?
Not you. Pretend that it's awesome, because it is awesome.
Now look at that exhaust header, fully custom made too, right? Because there was never a rear-wheel drive K24 engine.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Amazing sound.
Oh, dude.
So, a little bit more info. You can see that person's channel there on YouTube. They have a couple of videos of them building this car. Unfortunately, not too much information, but it looks like a labor of love for them. So, kind of sad to see it being sold, really. But
The channel name is... Go back to it. JP2400 Datsun. And so the channel name is based on this car.
yeah.
So cool. Oh my gosh. I adore this era of Japanese cars. The 510 has always been one that I loved, and this is one of the best engines. That engine's probably putting out north of 200 horsepower pretty easily, because stock, the K24 is usually 200. And so probably if they've done this to the car, they may have swapped the head over to a K20 head, in which case it's probably somewhere around 220, 240 horsepower.
I think it did say it had something. I could be getting this confused with someone else, but no, it's got it's a built engine too. I can see you, Max.
Very cool. How much does it cost,
Max?
We don't know.
Please
you have
contact
to
us
ask.
for a price.
Oh, those idiots.
So if you want it, we can contact the dealer for you. But
1972. Here's another clue for those trying to detective their way into finding out what my car is. It comes from 1972.
Same year as this.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
You have an old car?
Yeah. I've been writing clues on the cups.
Is elbows up a clue? Is elbows up a clue?
No, this is just because I'm being patriotic at the moment.
Mike, what are your keys to cash box?
Cage or not?
Grant needs the keys for the cash box. On to the last one.
Yes.
The last one is also amazing. This is an R.
Aha.
The last one does not exist, so we will go right into the Q&A.
No, I have it here.
Okay, we'll quickly talk about it. So this is an R30 Skyline. So everyone knows about the R32, R33, R34. This is the R30, which was early 80s, like 1981 until 1984 or something like that. Usually comes with an assortment of engines. You could get a turbo 4-cylinder in them. You can get the L28 engine, maybe even the L24, maybe the L20 engine. The L20, 24, and 28 engines are Fairlady engines, the original 1960s Fairlady. They are an interesting engine because they have the intake and the exhaust on the same side of the engines, just like Volkswagens do, and many old 4-cylinders actually. So intake comes in this way, and the exhaust comes back out the same direction. They usually come with triple carb. I think this one has larger size carburetors and has been overboard and stroked from the original 2.8 liters up to 3.1 liters. With those individual throttle bodies, 3.1 liters and probably somewhere in the range of 250 horsepower. And the vroom, vroom, 250 horsepower.
That must sound amazing.
And that's why you want this car. Like, oh, look at that. Carbs are 45. Let me see. Yeah, 45 OER triple carb. Amazing. And yes, the intake and the exhaust right next to each other.
It's so weird.
Right. And the exhaust is going to be all hot, right?
Yeah,
Heating up the air that's going to be taken right into it. Kind of weird. Still, you don't buy this car for quickness. You buy it because it's going to sound amazing and will still have pretty decent performance. Cars from the 70s aren't going, early 80s are going to be similar to 70s. They're not going to handle super, super well. But Nissan was effective in racing with this chassis, with their Super Silhouette, was based off an R30. And that was back when race cars were actually based off of real cars. Oh, except for the Super Silhouette that I'm just mentioning. Those were all tube frame with chassis built on top of them.
I didn't get a chance to see this beforehand, but
3.1 liters. It says turbo on the back, but a turbo EX. It's like X turbo.
Extreme.
X
Right?
turbo.
It's like no longer has a turbo on it. So this would have been an originally 4-cylinder, I think 1.8 or 2 liter or something. Not sure.
Could maybe have been a turbo L20.
Oh, turbo L20s were built in that? Jesus Christ. You know a lot about cars.
I researched.
Live fact checking by Grant.
It kind of sucks being on this show, honestly, knowing that Grant is listening, because you can't fake anything.
Yeah, Grant will call you out immediately.
Yeah. Or after
later.
the show.
Later is even worse, yeah.
Okay, Q&A.
Questions at... Oh, wait.
No, we just
You want to do it? Okay.
we already.
Max will be asking the questions. We will go through the chat and look for questions. We brought some questions in from the comments section from last week. And so we got those ones to start with, because those people have waited a week to listen to their question being asked. So
This
go
time
ahead.
it's one person. Cyborg Customs.
Oh,
That's
all of these
25
are
questions.
Wow, okay.
Hit us.
It's 2 questions, but first one is, can you explain the 10% exporter tax refund?
10% tax refund for exporters?
Can you explain that?
Yeah, that's you pay 10% tax in Japan when
you're
buy
an
something.
exporter.
So
Sorry.
well, this is something that people get confused about
And
from
get
time to
scammed
time.
about.
And yeah,
I don't
they
know if
also
you would
get
call it a
scammed about,
scam per se, but it is a way that exporters are making free money off of you.
Right.
With if you don't know.
Yeah. So if you purchase a vehicle from auction in Japan, you give us your bid amount. If your bid amount is 1 million yen, we bid 1 million yen. We win the vehicle for 1 million yen, say. Keep the numbers nice and easy for maths. Your winning price for that vehicle is 1 million yen. We pay 1.1 million yen because there are other fees as well, but ease of mathematics. We pay the 10% tax on the vehicle here. So when the vehicle is exported to you, we can claim that tax back. So the price goes back down to 1 million yen. Your exporter should be giving you the tax back on the vehicle, or should not ever be charging you. So it's not really a refund. You shouldn't be getting the 10% tax back. You just should never be paying it because the vehicle's being exported out of the country. There is no tax obligation.
And
after
there
it's
are
exported.
many exporters that are tacking this on, and they will claim, "Well, we pay the tax, so now you have to pay the tax."
Yeah.
And the reason why it's popular with a lot of smaller exporters is because this is a large tax burden. If you were to export a car that was, say, 5 million yen, then you would have to pay, what is that?
$5,000.
$5,000 in tax that you're not getting $5,000 in profit for that. So you now have to have the government hold your $5,000 for that car that you exported. And we typically get that back about 7 months later. So you can imagine if you're selling a lot of cars, this adds up to a very large amount. And if you're just getting into the game, you might not be able to afford that unless you had money to bring into it. To give you an idea, we regularly go over $100,000 per month. And if it takes seven months to get that back, then we've got 700,000, the equivalent of 700,000 Canadian dollars per se, 500,000 US dollars, just sitting there. The government's like, "Thank you for your tax money. We shall give it back to you sometime." It's ridiculous. And most exporters do not charge it, but a good amount do.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, I'd say something like 20% do. And the ones that do are the smaller ones that are the Instagram/Facebook only entity ones tend to be charging this. So do your research. This also goes for dealer cars. Can you go back to one of the dealer listings that has a price on it?
Mm-hmm. I think this one had.
Okay, so let's look at the price. So this price is 3.78 million yen. And then the 3.98 million yen is including registration. And so when you buy a car from a dealer, you would pay usually you would pay the smaller of those two numbers less the 10% tax. So you would take that and then you would divide it by 1.1 to find the actual invoice amount. Then purchase fees or whatever go on top of that. I think it is much more popular when you are buying from a dealer for the exporters to just be like, yes, it's 3.78 million. And then they're making an extra 10% on that. Right. And 10% of 3.78 million is several $1,000s, most likely much more than their original purchase fee.
Yeah.
And
I'd have to say that we have a 5% surcharge for this reason on vehicles that are over 1 million yen because it creates such a big cash flow problem.
Right.
Yeah. That is the reason that we have.
Because there's there's the opportunity cost of holding $500,000 in the government's bank account.
Yeah.
And that money could be put toward inventory or this or that could expand the business, but because we can't use our money, there has to be a cost for that money to be stored away. That's where a 5% comes from. People do ask that.
Yeah, money has a cost.
Yeah. Next question. Did we answer it?
Yeah, it's not an exported tax refund. You should just never be charged it.
Yeah. Next question, same person, and then we go into the chat. So a pre-purchase inspection would be better and more reliable than an auction inspection? ?
That's a loaded question.
It's a long question. A simple answer, I would say probably not. Of all the inspections that we get back, if I could choose one or the other, I would 100 times out of 100 only see the auction sheet.
Yep.
You can get there is a slim chance that a visual inspection of the car after the fact brings up something or gives you more details that makes you not want to bid on that car. It's a fairly slim chance. There is a huge chance that what's seen on the auction sheet is what you need to be paying attention to. So the post-purchase inspections, like I always say, they are of a benefit to a certain type of buyer, and you should be asking us if you fit into that category. But if I'm buying my cars myself, I don't get these pre-purchase inspections. I just don't think that they're worth it for the cars that I bid on. So,
good point, Derek.
I also think that this is thank you.
I like that.
I also think that this is something of a red herring that is used by many of these smaller car exports to convince people to buy from them. You'll see people on Facebook saying, why would you ever buy from a car company or an exporter that's not physically seeing the cars themselves? Now, I personally think you don't gain a lot of benefit, even though it seems like your knee-jerk reaction is, of course you're getting a benefit from seeing the car, but I don't know if you actually are getting that much of a benefit. In my experience, you aren't really. But then these exporters that are always shouting this are the ones that will go to USS Tokyo and are stating this as a sales point more than it is actually good advice. And of course, we can get these inspections. The auction provides them as a service. You can pay for them and you can get them. Most of the time, I don't think that it's worth it.
Yeah.
And so if you're convinced that you need to see the car ahead of time before you bid on it, and you're an idiot if you're not seeing the car ahead of time, why didn't you buy from me? Kind of sales pitch.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the full truth. So
right. I think that's the key point, is that there's a vested interest in people who are saying that.
And some export companies are making more money from these inspections than they are from actually selling the cars. It's quite easy to do that. And of course, we could be doing that. We could be going, everyone, you need these inspections. And then, ka-ching, look at how much money we're making on the side.
Nobody who's bought a car for themselves personally here has ever had an inspection, as far as I'm aware.
You mean our staff?
Yeah.
No.
I've never done it, and I've never thought that I should have either.
It depends. I could see times that I would need to know certain information about a car, like particularly if it was like a special model that only has this one thing and I need to confirm.
Oh, right, like a Land Cruiser 80 and you want the locking diffs. Lifting docks? I don't think Land Cruiser 80s come with lifting docks, but...
Gregor was asking this too. How about stuff like cigarette smell?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife would go crazy if I brought home a car for the family that was cigarette smoked in. And so if we were buying a family car and we were worried about that, then I would bring my wife to auction and we would make sure that the car is perfect for us.
I do want to mention...
and you can ask that as a question.
Yeah, absolutely. An inspection would help in that case. First, to answer Greg's question.
Good point.
If you ever see like cigarette hole or cigarette something in a car, it's been smoked in. For me, I don't smoke, never have. I don't like cigarette smoke at all. If I ever see like cigarette damage, I don't want that car. If it was an extremely special, rare car that I absolutely have to have, I would get it inspected and see if you could rate the cigarette smell. But there's cigarette smell, so that's the point I'm trying to make. Is you already know it's there. If you don't like it, just forget about it. And then to answer the question we had about the inspections, the Cyborg Customs went on to say some auction inspections I've seen don't check if all electronics work or other hidden gremlins that may come up if there was. For an example, an OB default code scan. This is a question from someone who doesn't fully understand that the auctions are wholesale, and you don't get this kind of level of information with this vehicle. It sounds like they're probably asking from the point of view of somebody who gets a pre-purchase inspection in their home country, which is you send out a mobile mechanic or something like that, and it's like a $200
or $300.
Yeah, I don't know how much it costs, but they will give you like an overall thing of the vehicle. They might hook it up to a scanner. Might send you some photos, some videos. They'll give you their opinion. That's not available here in Japan, to my knowledge. There are some very small companies that will do it, mostly for like exotic cars. But overall, those inspection services that many of the dealerships will often say, it's had a pre-purchase inspection. Those companies only work for the dealers. We've tried as
as a party that is looking to buy a vehicle, and they say, sorry, we don't work for you. We work for the dealers. And I've also seen those inspections vastly understate the damage on vehicles too. So I don't trust those either. That's just to answer it from a point of view of if someone's looking for a dealer car.
I got a question. Silent112, are auctions always the best deal? Do you ever negotiate or purchase at dealers on behalf of somebody? If it's a car that's easy to find in the spec that you want, always go with the auctions. If it's a car that you find at the dealer and you fell in love with that very specific thing, maybe it's got modifications that you want, or maybe it's a very, very rare car, go ahead and buy it at the dealer, but just know you'll probably be paying a 10 to 20% markup over what you will at auction in order to buy that. So this will be several $1,000s more expensive for you. The other reason, if you need to buy the car right away and don't want to go through the auction process of trying to bid on a car and losing, trying to find another one and losing, you might want to get a car right away and you're willing to pay extra in order to get that.
Yeah.
Succinct? Was I succinct there?
It was, yeah.
I love being succinct.
Yeah, just understand if you're buying from a dealer, you're paying more money. You're paying the dealer's markup for
because the dealers buy from the auctions.
Right, yeah. You're just buying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Few other chat questions. Gregor asked, thoughts on bidding on vehicles that are listed the first time
Oh, what
versus
a
have been
great
listed
question.
multiple times?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Are
love
the
that
relisted
question.
ones more problematic?
Whoa, man, I feel like all of my explanations are just too long because I want to give as much information
You
as
should
possible.
be succinct.
I'm working on my succinctness.
I'm pretty terrible at it myself.
Yeah. So if they're relisted from the same seller, it just means they didn't sell last time. It means that the seller wanted more money than the market was willing to pay. Would I be put off buying a vehicle like that? Probably not for the first couple times, but any time after that, it sends a clear message from the seller that they're not willing to pay, accept what the market wants to pay, and they want a higher price. And I'm not interested in continue
They've
following
set
that.
their negotiation higher than the market and are waiting for somebody to overpay. So case specific, if it is a car you absolutely love, go for it. You will be paying above market price for that, or above wholesale market price for it.
Yeah.
But it might still be worth it for you.
Yeah.
I would forget about it if it goes 1 week unsold. I would be like, no, this seller's an idiot. Maybe not an idiot's being a little bit harsh on it. This seller has a strategy that works for them that makes people pay extra, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
How about Yahoo Auctions? Somebody was asking about that. Who was
Can we buy
that?
from Yahoo Auctions?
Griff rides.
Can you bid on cars? Yes, we can, and we do.
Yahoo Auctions is, so in Japan there's no personal ads for selling cars. Individuals don't sell to each other, except for some very rare people will on Yahoo Auctions. So you've got maybe 5% of the listings on Yahoo Auctions of cars are personal people selling their own cars. Some people do it on the site Mercari as well.
Yeah.
The rest of them are either full-size dealers that are also listing on places like Goonet or Car Sensor, or the in-betweenies, the people who don't yet have their dealer's license but are still kind of car dealers. You have a higher risk of buying from these types of people because they're not as established. They don't have a brand that they need to protect. They don't offer any of these services like warranties on their cars and repairs of the cars at a later date and these, those things. I would be a little bit more sketched out to bid on a car on Yahoo Auctions than a dealer by far. But again, if this car is something that you love, yes, we can do that. You will get a mouthful from us about the extra risks, and then if you're like, yes, that's fine with me, then go ahead.
Yep. No auction inspection sheets from dealer purchases or Yahoo Auctions purchases, and that to me is a bit of a risk.
Great info, people say. Okay, do you want to go to the next question?
Yes, please.
Just on the Yahoo Auctions thing, Greg said more scammy from Yahoo Auctions. There's scammy in the sense of like your money's going to disappear. No, because we make sure that we're
except
only
for
sending...
my Motocompo.
Right, but
I bought a Motocompo on Yahoo Auctions and paid $2,000 for it, and they sent me a tail light.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I bought a Motocompo, and then Yahoo Auctions were like, no, you got a tail light. That's it. Sorry.
Yeah. It was a very shadily listed auction on Yahoo Auctions.
Yep.
We were left holding the bag.
I was.
Yeah.
personally. It never happened to a customer. It was just me getting drunk and buying a Motocompo without checking the details well enough. But it convinced other people too. Like I wasn't the only reason it sold for that much is because it got bid up by a ton of people.
Versus people,
that all thought it was a motorbike.
Yeah. But Greg, no pre-purchase inspections at Yahoo, so that's what we were saying before that makes us more sketched out about the purchase. But in terms of your money disappearing, it's very rare, other than that one example. It's not going to happen to you either, because...
You got another question lined up?
I would like to go back to the bidding fees on US auctions. Zaid said he bid on Copart. And for a cheaper car, he says the fees are 20%.
20%?
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa. The auctions in the USA have a very different reputation than here.
It's also a different thing. Like in the USA, a used car dealer in the USA sells a car to somebody and they'll take in the trade-in. And then they'll usually put that trade-in up for sale again to another buyer. That doesn't happen in Japan. In Japan, get the car in, the default is go to auction, because many of the used car dealers are specialists in certain types of cars, and they don't want to have a car that is outside of their specialty. This is especially true with anything older than 15 years old. There will be K-Van dealers and Tesla dealers and Volkswagen Golf dealers and Volkswagen Golf Cabriolets and yellow dealers.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a stretch, but it's very specific that way. So the vast majority of dealer trade-ins just go to auction. Yeah. If the auction prices were 20% in Japan, you wouldn't see that.
Yeah.
You would see everyone trying to resell the cars. Yeah. That's crazy. It makes me want to open up an auction company in the States. Maybe that's why Bring a Trailer is so popular there.
Yeah.
And carsandbids.com.
Yep.
This is an unpaid advertisement.
Okay.
Quick. I've seen a lot of grade R. Would you still recommend bidding on these? From JT.
Yeah. Grade R, people think is similar to salvage title vehicles, but it's not. In the USA, Canada, and some other countries, a salvage title is a car that was in an accident that was big enough that the cost of the repair is more than the car is worth, and so they don't repair it. In some cases, you can take this car and you can rebuild it, and then you can go on to sell it, and then it becomes a salvage title car. So that means the accident was pretty big. Here in Japan, you get an R grade as long as any repair on the car was done to the frame. This can be an itty-bitty repair to a car, like rear-ending somebody at 10 kilometers an hour, has a little bit of damage where the headlights are, and then you repair that. That's officially part of the frame, and so it becomes an R-grade car. The Silvia that we looked at today is a good example of this. It's an R-grade car that is still in very good condition, and absolutely, in my opinion, an R-grade car is nothing to be worried about, but something to be cautious about. Yeah. So read the auction sheet, see what the details are on the auction sheet, get a good idea of how big the accident was, and then decide if that's the kind of car that you want. But I absolutely don't think that writing off an R-grade car is necessary. Price differences for an R-grade car depends on the type of car, depends on the year a lot. Yeah. You can see between, 5 to 10% lower on an R-grade car, if that, more closer to the 5%.
Yeah. Keep in mind, that's not a cheat code to be like, oh, an R-grade that's lightly damaged, I'll get an immediate discount. Like, other buyers are going to see that, oh, it's an R-grade, oh, it's very minor damage, the car is worth more. Like, we've seen R-grade cars that would otherwise be a 4.5. And they have been expensive because the damage is not really much to worry about. So yeah, be cautious and look into more if it's a severe R grade or not, and then make your decision.
Mm-hmm.
There are
thoughts on B-Pro. Daniel Clark, thoughts on B-Pro. He's trying to start a flame war between us and the car importer.
There's also a question on thoughts about B-Forward. So we have
very different thoughts on very different companies.
Daniel, B-Pro, the guy's name is Brian, and he lives in Calgary, I believe, in Canada. I have met him on one occasion. He does a different business than us. We're a car exporter, and he is a car importer, and these are different businesses. When you buy from an exporter, you are cutting out any middleman in Canada. Brian is probably the biggest importer in Canada, the one with the best reputation. Best reputation? I don't know.
I think he's
the one that imports the most amount of cars, I think, and he's the one that most people know or think about when it comes to an importer. With an importer, there are some benefits over an exporter, especially if you're worried about sending your money overseas to another country. If something goes wrong, you're honestly limited in what you can do in order to get your money back. And some people have learned that the hard way. When you buy from a company in Canada, you could sue that person quite easily. And to a lot of people, this is very valuable. Also, Brian offers financing for the cars, and so you can pay monthly for any of your imports. And that's a lot of the reason why he's so popular. You are paying a little bit more with an importer, but you are getting different things. As far as what I think of Brian, I don't like giving my opinion on a company that I haven't worked with myself, because who knows what people are saying about a company, whether it's true or not. And honestly, I'm not somebody who's looking to pick fights with anybody. He offers a different service than us, and I don't think that it's necessarily bad. I wouldn't be afraid of buying from him, if that was the question.
Many of our customers are importers in Canada who resell vehicles.
Who are like Brian. Yeah. We have sent some cars to Brian too. We aren't his regular importer, but he's doing so much volume that it would be hard for us to keep up with. He also gets very unique provisions, so the amount that he pays for his exporter every time is fairly low.
Yeah.
Like,
I will say, just in terms of general advice, if you're going with an importer, it's usually because you're not comfortable with dealing with a company overseas and taking on all of the risk and everything like that. So it makes sense for a lot of people. Some of those importers also keep stock, so you can see the vehicles in person before you buy.
I don't think BPro does. I think they're all purchased order.
Just in terms of importers in general, considering we're an exporter and that person may be considering going with an importer.
What about B Forward? What do you think about B Forward?
We will not help you purchase a vehicle from B Forward stock. We get asked that frequently.
But a lot of their stock are just other people's cars, right?
That is also true.
Like the vast majority of their cars are just relisted. Like
GooNet listings that are then appear on their website.
And then they do claim that these are third-party sellers, and so they just basically pull from the internet, put onto their site, and wait for buyers. B Forward is the biggest car exporter in Japan. There is a lot of information online about B Forward. There are a lot of people saying that they're a scam company. I don't think that this is necessarily the truth. I think B Forward has very small margins for their cars, and they mostly supply... I can get into that if you want me to. They mostly supply a lot of countries where price is the number one most important factor for them.
Very true.
Places like Kenya, for example.
Yeah, and to Africa.
Right. And so they buy the bottom 25% of most cars, because these are the only cars that you'll be able to successfully sell in Kenya. I'm not saying all the cars that they buy are this, but this is kind of their business model. They buy the bad cars, and they sell them to the people who are looking for the bad cars. Nothing wrong with that, right? They do high volume, and they don't do a lot of service. Volumes. And so if you are going to be buying from them, understand that you'll pay a lower price. They have to go through sales super fast. And so again, there's nothing wrong with that business model. This is the in and out as fast as you can go and sell several thousand vehicles per month. What you were saying about the higher price, B Forward, like most other car exporters, is not super duper upfront about how much that they are going to be charging you until you get the invoice. And invoices from exporters in Japan are complicated. There are many little fees. And when you ask somebody how much is your service fee, then the service fee can be X yen. And then the shipping might be more expensive. Or they might charge you for something that another exporter won't charge you for, or something like that. And B Forward is known to add a decent amount onto the cost of shipping, which would surprise people to learn that shipping costs are different from one exporter to another. Every car exporter has their own set amount of markup for the amount they charge for shipping. So,
to try to give good general advice, I think B Forward also purchase a lot of vehicles from auction and have them listed for sale.
I don't know if they still do that. I know they used to do it a lot.
They had a much bigger inventory previously, and now they're moving away from that because it's just not as profitable.
Because we used to get a ton of people contacting us saying, "Oh, I found this Skyline. It's for sale at Be Forward," and my response was always, they just bought it from auction. Like, why don't you just buy it from auction and then pay the actual price that it cost rather than the price from auction plus the price of taking some poor quality photos and putting them on the internet.
Are you calling Be Forward photos poor quality?
No.
Are you starting a flame war?
I think
do you want Brian at Be Pro to come after you?
This is Be Forward.
And Be Forward?
What? Oh my god.
Let's transition into my finger pointing
at the clock. It's time to wrap
Zaid
up.
was correct.
Questions.
Zaid was correct. We did go over. We just can't help ourselves when we start talking with you guys. We just love it so much.
I've one closing question to Mike. What did you think of the Subaru you drove recently?
I saw that question and I don't know who asked it, so I will do my best not to dox the owner of the car. I thoroughly enjoyed my time driving the Subaru, and thank you very much to the person who allowed me to do that, who bought the car. I wish I had more time with it and was able to drive it in the mountains like it was my own car.
We got him a video of the car driving, right, with the stock exhaust, but then we put the aftermarket exhaust on. Did you ever give a video of the aftermarket exhaust?
Yeah, not while driving, but stationary, and we gave him some revs and showed him what it was like. See. And it was, oh boy.
Yeah.
It was a very nice car.
Okay, well, we're going to have to wrap it up because we have a very busy day and a very busy week. And so we cannot go over any more than 27 minutes that we already have. And so we're going to be wrapping this up. I hope that everybody enjoyed the show. If you do have questions, make sure that you post them in the comments section and we will answer them the next week, most likely. If you ask a good question, put some thought into it.
Yeah.
And we're going to put some thought into the answer.
If we missed your question, you can post it on the video once it goes live, and Max goes through them and pulls out comments.
That's right. The chat is not the same as the comments section. And so if you missed your question and you really want it answered for next week, put it copy and paste into the comments section when the video is finished and uploaded.
And don't forget to send in your cars.
Oh, that is right. Show at PacificCoastJDM.com is where you can send pictures of your cars that you imported from us. We have already gotten a few of them, but we would like to see your cars, and you will get something, but we don't know what you're going to get.
We don't know when. We don't know
You
what.
might know.
I might know.
I might
already have a date in mind, but I won't reveal that until the competition closes. So once the competition closes, there's no more entries. There might be future competitions.
There might be.
But you need to get those in. I want to see them.
You need to get them in.
And I want to judge them.
Okay, well, that's going to be it for the show. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we will see you again next week. Right?
That's all from us here in the studio in Japan.
We're already out, are we?
No.
Are we on?
Over to you, Derek, with the weather.
Turn it off.
Okay, goodbye.